adjusting the seat so that when I sit down, my legs should be bent at a right angle. So when my legs bent at a right angle, so you want your feet about shoulder width apart and make sure that you're pushing from the heels. This is where you adjust the weight. You'll notice that on these weights that they jump 15 pounds. If you can move that weight over and then only jump 5 pounds as opposed to 15. If I just want to jump 10, then I just move the additional one. And then I move to all the way up and then just move to the next plate. So that's how these work. On a leg press, the good thing about the leg press is it's a compound movement, meaning that we're going to use multiple muscle groups to do this lift. So it's going to work out the quadriceps, it's going to work out the hamstrings, the gastrocnemius, which is your calf muscle, and the gluteus maximus. So when you push, you want to push from the heels. Now I'm exaggerating that just so that you can see that I'm pushing from the heel. You don't want to push from the ball of the foot because as you go up in weight, it's going to cause a lot of strain on the front part of the knee. So when you lift the weight, you want to push from the heels. But again, I'm exaggerating that. You don't have to roll that far back on the heels. But just make sure that the majority of the weight is being pushed from the heels, not the ball of the foot. So this is leg press. If you ever forget which exercises or which muscles are being worked by this particular exercise, there's always a chart, and it'll show you which muscle groups are being worked. This is a seated leg curl. If you're ever in another gym and they have a leg curl but you have to lay down on it, that's called a prone leg curl. This is a seated leg curl. You're setting upright. The first thing you want to do is adjust the seat. You want to adjust the seat so that when you sit down, your knee is even with the axis of rotation. The axis of rotation is almost always indicated with a red washer. That's to let you know where the joint needs to be so that you don't cause any problems, so that you're lifting the weight correctly. You can adjust this pad here, and you want to adjust it so that when you sit down, it hits you right on the Achilles tendon. So I've set the seat in a good location so that my knee is even with the axis of rotation. If I had the seat too far forward, it would push me way out here in front, and my knee would be too far away from the axis of rotation. That would cause a lot of strain on my knee if I tried to lift the weight. So I want to make sure that it's even. Notice that this pad is hitting me right on the Achilles tendon. I adjust this pad. This kind of acts like your seatbelt, kind of holds you in place. This other one, if I don't have the flexibility to have my legs extended that far, I can adjust this. So that way when I slide in here, it's a little bit more comfortable. But the farther you lower it, the less range of motion you're going to have. But maybe if you had a pre-existing injury like a knee injury, you would want to set it a little bit lower so that your legs aren't extended too far out. I'm going to adjust the weight here. Same thing applies to most of these machines. Instead of making that big 15-pound jump, if I just want to make a 5-pound jump, I slide the plate over. And you just slide those over that. And once I slide 2 of them over, that increases the weight by 10 pounds. When I get ready to make that 15-pound jump, that's when I move to another plate. So I adjust my weight, hands go here, and then you curl to lift the weight. This is a hamstring, so this machine is isolating the hamstring. Hamstring is also called the biceps femoris. Just like your biceps do the curling action for the arms, the hamstrings or biceps femoris do the curling action for the legs. This is a leg extension. If you ever forget the muscles that it works out, they're listed right here on all the machines. So if you ever forget, you can always use the machine as a reference. This is going to isolate the quadricep, which is like 4 muscle groups in one. It's right here in the front part of the leg. That's the reason they call it the quadricep, because it's 4 muscle groups. They all act to do the same action, but they're grouped together. So again, this one's the quadricep. First thing I want to do here is adjust the seat. So once I've adjusted the seat, I want to make sure that when I sit down, that my knee is even with the axis of rotation. Now, if I didn't have the flexibility to place my legs in this position, I could take this pin here. Now, we're missing the pin on our leg extension right now, but if we had it, it would be a little yellow pin that you pull out, and that would allow you to bring that a little bit further away, bring that pad a little further away, so that it's a more comfortable position. Right here, this is perfect for me, but the further you move it away, the less range of motion you're going to have. So the closer I can get it to me, it's going to require me to lift that weight through a greater range of motion. But if I've had any kind of knee injury, I may not have that much range of motion in my knee, so I want to set it out a little bit further so I'm more comfortable. But again, look at this axis of rotation. That red washer is an indicator of where the joint needs to be. So I want to make sure my knee is even with that. If I had the seat too far forward, just like with the leg curl, it would push me way out here. And if I try to lift the weight with my knees way out there in the front, it's going to put a lot of strain on the front part of my knee because I'm not lifting the weight correctly. And over time, you may not get injured right away, but over time, you're going to develop an overuse injury, which is something you don't want. Now, you adjust your weight, and again, just like the other machines, if I didn't want to jump 15 pounds, I would move that over. That would jump me up 5 pounds. Move that one over, it's going to jump up 10. When I get ready to jump up 15, I move those back over, and then I move up in weight. Now here's an important thing to consider. When you're doing a leg extension, let's say I'm doing 100 pounds here. So I extend the leg out, back down. So I'm extending out, it's causing the quadricep to concentrically contract. And that's important. We want to do the concentric contraction here. That's what I'm talking about in most of all these machines, is the concentric contraction. So, as you extend the leg out, if I can do 100 pounds here, I should be able to do 60 pounds on the leg curls. Alright, this machine is an adduction machine, meaning that if I had a center line cutting me in half, I'm bringing the limb back to center line. Alright, so I'm adding the limb back to the body, essentially. First thing you want to do, notice this little handle here kind of lifts it up so that you can move the pads into the appropriate position and whatever's comfortable for you. So I want to bring these apart. So in my start position, my legs are going to be apart, and I'm going to adjust my weight here, and the same thing applies as to the other machines. If I don't want to jump 15 pounds, I can move 5 pounds over, or I can move an additional 5 to increase it by 10. So I adjust my weight. Get to a good start position to what's comfortable for me to start at, so you can adjust it. The closer they are together, the less range of motion you're going to have. Once I get ready to start, I just bring the pads together and then allow them to go back out. So the concentric contraction is right here where I bring the legs together. So that's going to be the inner portion of the thigh. If you forget which muscle groups it's working out, again, all these machines list the primary muscles. Okay, you're probably looking at this machine and you're thinking, well, that looks like the same machine that he was just on. Well, in a sense, it's very close to it, except this one's just the opposite. Here we're training the antagonist muscle groups to the adduction machine because we're going to be doing abduction. And the same thing holds true here. I don't want to create a weakness. So if I go over and do an exercise on the adduction machine, I want to make sure I go and do an equivalent amount of weight on the abduction machine. So on this one, there was a center line cutting me in half. So my body was in 2 parts. I'm bringing the leg away from center line. So I'm concentrically contracting these muscles on the outer portion of the thigh. So I'm bringing the legs apart. The resistance is right here when I push away. So I adjust my weight. Same thing applies as it does to all machines. If you don't want to make that big 15-pound jump, use those smaller weights to increase the intensity. So I'm pushing against these pads. So I'm abducting the leg away from center line. So my leg is moving away from the body. body, so it's being abducted. Just like somebody gets abducted, we're abducting the leg away from the body. So we're taking it away, we're abducting it. So that's going to work the outer portion of the thigh. Alright, this machine is a little different from the other machines in that you've got to load the machine down with free weights, so it doesn't have plates that come along with it. You adjust this pad here so that when you sit down and push your feet here, you're going to be able to lift that up off this level. So once I get this in position, you can sit down, adjust it, because this is going to give you leverage so that when you lift the leg and contract the calf muscle, it allows you to lift that off the stand. Now from this position here, I can hold on and I just contract the calf muscle, the gastrocnemius. So I'm doing plantar flexion and dorsiflexion to lift the weight. So we're working out the calf